Hi, it's Ogechi Sylvia Odocha here, and I realized it's 1 month to Valentine's Day, and I just felt I should talk a bit about self-love and um, our mental health. I am sharing this as one depression sufferer to another, hoping this message reaches you if you're lying down there in the bed and contemplating how tasteless and listless life might be, and ruminating over the negative thoughts and thinking, oh, you've lost your friends. Yeah, friends will leave you when you struggle with mental illness. Friends will make a mockery of you, but never leave yourself, and God will never leave you. Depression is a clinical condition, not fully understood. There's a lot of science about it, a lot of research. We don't fully know what the causes are. Some have said a lack of serotonin, which is one of the happy hormones. Some have said when there's a mismatch in the gut brain biology. Other people have said it's due to external factors. But then we still see people who have everything in life. They've got money, they've got beautiful spouses, healthy children, but they still struggle with depression. And so we don't really understand it. Some people think it's just prolonged sadness, but I don't think it's not prolonged sadness. Um, we don't really know what causes it. Even as a doctor, I fully don't understand it. I have suffered with depression so many times, and it's funny that this is the time around which I struggle with depression, but I'm fine to the glory of God, doing my normal things, enjoying my hobbies, which include crochet. I made this scarf and speaking publicly. I love doing it. So when I find out I am withdrawing from things I love, I know that the depressive features have started to come. So because we don't fully understand it, we could give treatment, but we find out that sometimes the treatments you might need to taper different things, maybe counseling, medication, a combination of the two. And then in recent times, we found out other things like, dance, yoga, mindfulness, talking to friends, going outside. Those are some of the factors that also help. So, depression can happen to anybody. Anybody. I want to use this opportunity to remember my mentor. He's late now. Um, he was a consultant in the hospital I worked in, an A&E consultant. Unfortunately, he died during the COVID pandemic. One of the times I had my very severe depressive episodes. My episodes are usually triggered by the winter, the lack of sunshine. If you look outside, it looks dark, but it's around like 4 o'clock, 4:30 where I am. The long nights and short days, combined with the cold, the damp, and the overwhelming sense of dread, and everybody seems to be moaning and unhappy around you. I'm somebody who can easily absorb the negativity. And because I am always joyful, so once the prevailing forces around me are morose, I will try to emit positivity. And if I feel I can't really emit that positivity, I begin to absorb the negative energy around me. And before I know it, I get down. So, winter triggers my episodes. And that winter, I was very, very ill. I was taken into hospital. And this consultant of mine, he came to my bedside and said, okay, I've been observing you. You're one of the GP trainees who is doing your A&E posting. I said, yes. He said, people have raised concerns that you've been slower than usual. You've been quite irritable. You've been taking more time to do simple tasks. I think you are depressed. He's an A&E consultant, so it's not in his jurisdiction to make a diagnosis of depression. And he said, I want you to go and see your GP and get help. And the first thing I remember saying was, it's not my portion. He said, what did you say? I said, no, it's something we say in Nigeria. It's not my portion. He said, but you're a doctor. And you know that depression does happen. I said, I'm too bubbly, I'm too bright to be depressed. And he said, this is how so many people have overlooked their mental health until things got so bad and they got into places that they were very difficult to pull out of the cesspits of despair that they had entered. And he said, I want you to know that tough times never last, but tough people do. Once you're out of here, please go and see your GP. I remember wrestling with the thoughts. We don't really talk about mental health and depression and, being low in moody. I think there's a negative connotation to it in our Nigerian society because everybody is bright, wearing bright colors, dancing, hugging, and then there you are being the wet blanket. People don't like you. People don't like it. And in the course of my suffering with recurrent depression, which started, my first episode was in 2014. So for the last 10 years, once the winter comes, I get depressed. I have lost friends. People have left me. People have cut me off. People have said all sorts about me being crazy, me being sick in the head, and said all sorts and stigmatized me. Family, friends, people I held dear. But in all, I have discovered what works for me. So discover what works for you. I finally went to see my GP when it became so difficult to cope with daily life. I was struggling to get myself out of bed. So my symptoms were getting out of bed, anhedonia, that is loss of pleasure in previously pleasurable activities like my choir, my crochet, my videos. I went off social media. I'm a social media freak. I love being on it. Self-care, my self-care went down. I wasn't dressing in bright colors anymore. I wasn't doing my hair. I stopped eating. The lack of appetite, the taste of food was no longer sweet in my mouth. I was always sad, always sighing. For me, it was oversleeping. I could sleep for 24 hours in a day, only waking up to go and ease myself and go back to this listless sleep that was not even refreshing. Withdrawing from my friends, those are my symptoms. And when I told the GP, they gave me a questionnaire called the PHQ-9 questionnaire, which I filled and I scored quite high on that questionnaire. They also gave me another questionnaire called the GAD-7. That's the questionnaire that checks for generalized anxiety disorder. I was scoring low on that, so it was more of depression. And they said, with this, we need to start you on antidepressants. I was started on antidepressants, which I took for quite a while. And thankfully, I was referred for counseling. But the counseling that caught it, because I tried so many counseling services when I met an Igbo counselor. She grew up in Nigeria, practiced in Nigeria for a while before she came to the UK and studied psychology. Board certified, and she was able to understand the cultural nuances that were triggering my depression, which included the circumstances surrounding my getting married. For those who know me, it's something I'm writing about in a novel, so I wouldn't share it here, but for my friends that know how I got married and how it affected me, being a perfectionist, being an ada, nade jemba, things you do for love, and then at the end of the day, you don't know how it's going to affect you. So my counselor was able to give me tips to cope, forgiving yourself, leaving the past in the past, knowing that what you have is the present. That's all we have. We don't even have the future. Speaking good things to yourself, loving yourself in a way that only you can. That love you expect from others, give it to yourself. And she told me, whenever you feel like withdrawing from the things you want to do, do it. So that's why you see me, I sing, I go for my choir practice. I'm in Plymouth. I've joined the choir in Plymouth. I do my crochet. I'm doing a lot of projects, writing, reading, exercise, whoa, exercise, whoa, exercise, whoa, dancing, Afrobeats artists. Thank you. You guys give us joy and morale and do those things you love. Above all, know that depression is real. It can affect anyone. Educate yourself about the symptoms. If you're struggling, seek help. And remember, you are loved, you are precious. Life is beautiful. Have a great 2025. Soprano Doctor.